My name's Quiana Dang. I am a senior in the Interactive Entertainment program at USC under USC Games. And for like 4 years now, I've been managing the Overwatch team here, the Overwatch team that competes in all the official collegiate tournaments, at least. Aside from that, I've done like various event planning for USC eSports organizations, both on the club and varsity side. And I just like help out around the office, metaphorically, something like that. How did I get into esports? I like played Overwatch when it first came out. I was 17 years old, and it was like the first video game that I had ever touched in my life, besides like Pokemon. And I loved it so much that I like started getting into watching streamers, and those streamers all happened to like compete in like grassroots esports programs when Overwatch League wasn't around. So I got really invested in like their performance, and I started following them, and I was like, wow, esports is so cool. So that was like the summer before I think I went to college. Um, and then when I got to USC, I was like blown away that there were like actual esports programs there. Back then, we didn't really have an organized one. It was just club activities. So I went into the club. That was USC Esports back at the time. And I wanted to get involved in esports in any way, at least for Overwatch esports. I had like no idea what League of Legends was. Um, so I did that. I gathered a bunch of people back then who played Overwatch and was like, why don't we compete in the collegiate Overwatch tournaments? Um, I decided to start organizing them, and we began the Overwatch scene at USC. It had existed before that, but I think the scale at which it did exist when I was there was because I was really into Overwatch and I just wanted to grab everybody who was. And from there, I just like became the de facto manager, just like organizing everything for the tournaments, etc. And yeah, from there turned into varsity with Trojan esports. Yeah, basically what I do is make sure all the players do what they're supposed to on time. So that includes like any logistical things behind the scenes, like maybe we're ordering jerseys or maybe we need to have like student info for something. I gather all that and I put it in the right place. That, and then I also schedule scrimmages and enter us into tournaments. I look for tournaments for us to compete in, and I also look for players when we are recruiting. But everybody helps out with that. Aside from that, probably the biggest part of my job is calling the players on the phone when they are not responding so that they show up to scrims and stuff like that. And most of the time, I'm waking them up when I call them. That is my favorite part of the job. Maybe not. Maybe I'm joking, but that's the most memorable part for sure. Hmm. I've been thinking about this a lot recently because I'm going to graduate in like 2 months. It's a little scary. Um, because I am part of the interactive entertainment program, I am kind of more inclined to get a job in game production of some kind. I'm an artist, so ideally concept art or any kind of like 2D art for games. But I would not be opposed to like esports jobs, honestly, just because I've been doing it for so long. Management just like comes naturally to me now, and I'd be very comfortable doing it. But it's more of like an alternative, I think, rather than my like main goal. I think I really just want to do art for games, which is totally unrelated to esports, kind of. But like, I gotta say, I am slightly disconnected from the esports industry, like mentally disconnected, because um, I've lost interest, unfortunately, in esports over the years, just because of other things like hunting for jobs and stuff like that has taken over my mind space. So I'm not entirely sure what the status is on like the faults in the esports industry. What I do want to see, obviously, is more diversity, because right now it's clearly dominated by men, especially white men. Um, and I think I'd like to see more accessibility. Um, I mean, I guess that the broadcast and like actual esports, like for fan following, is very easy to get into. But the thing about the esports industry is that it's very, I hate to say this on record, but it's like very centered around nepotism. You know someone in the industry, that's your way in, right? This is the same for games. But it'd be nice if like there was a way for someone who's just totally disconnected, who wants to get in easily and like start working there. at any like organization or like in a studio that centers around esports or anything like that. I think the other day, like literally yesterday or the day before, I think Riot announced something like a Valorant Challengers game changer, something like that. I don't know the exact title of it, but it's, and I also didn't watch the video, so I might be wrong. But this might, I think it is like a tournament program or system designed for women and other genders that are underrepresented in esports, especially Valorant esports. And I think that is supposed to bring them the same opportunities that currently men have, white men and just men in general. I think things like that are good because there is the argument that like separating genders into different tournaments and different programs doesn't really put them as equal. But the point of those programs is to bring spotlight to the women and other genders who are competing like in the same esport as men. And I think the existence of that is good enough. And every single one of those programs brings us closer to having like pure or actual equality of genders in esports. I think that needs to happen. I'm glad that it is happening, especially with Valorant, because Valorant is a game that is marketed towards all genders. Like it is CSGO skinned for everybody, basically. And I really appreciate that because like you bring the competitiveness of this game, it's like a high fidelity game, alongside the accessibility, put it together, you create a great game. And that's what we need to bring more people in. Yeah. I wrote a paper about this in my freshman year. Yeah, it was basically why my paper was why are there no women in esports? Why is it all just men? And also why are like other sexualities, other genders just or underrepresented? The reason for that is because video games have been so long marketed towards only men and boys that no one else really had the chance to play. Like they were either scorned or just discouraged from playing or when they wanted to play. Which is why you don't see that many players. It's like basically, it's pretty obvious. When I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to play the PS2, but my brother was, which like, okay, I guess. I just didn't question it because I was like 6 years old. But because of that, I feel like I missed out on a lot of experiences that I could have had playing video games. I really wanted to be good at Overwatch and Valorant when I was playing, but the truth is I don't have 10 years of experience playing shooters like other kids do when they were playing TF2 when they were like 8 years old. So I'm just bad at games. Maybe that's not an excuse, but you know, it like brings an advantage. And the more that we create games nowadays, I think that cater towards all genders, all sexualities, the more that we'll get diverse player pools, and so more diverse esports players. I think it will take time because there's no like instant solution, obviously, but like I think games like Fortnite especially open the pool up so much more. Like there are so many memorable female Fortnite players and like LGBTQ Fortnite players. It makes me really happy. I think we just need more of that. Yeah. My favorite memory of being involved in esports is probably managing my Overwatch team. Like literally anything that I do with them is just so fun. I feel like nowadays I'm in it for the players more than I am in it for the game. A little sad, but I just really like seeing my players happy and having a good time together, competing, whether or not we win or lose. Just like being together, improving, focusing on the game, but also having a good time is my favorite memory, like literally all of them. I remember a couple times back like when we were in person, physical reality, we would go out to K barbecue after like tournaments and stuff. That is so stereotypical of esports. K barbecue is like the only food apparently that exists in the esports realm. But we would go and we would have a great time. Video games are mainstream now. It's like no one doesn't game really. And I think esports is close on its heels because right now I see esports broadcasts and programs, rather than trying to cater to solely gamers, it feels like they're trying to cater to mainstream audiences. And I say this because if you look at like graphic styles of production and like social media, and like also the way that social media gets pumped out, they all have very accessible themes. Like the graphics themselves, they don't look like gamery, like they don't have like all these like weird gimmicks. They look like regular marketing graphics that you would see maybe from like a clothing brand or something. I like 100 Thieves, for example, they're very hype beasty, and hype beast isn't like tied to gamer culture. It's tied to just like general pop culture. And that's what works for them. And that's bringing them in like millions of customers, I'd say. I think that is what is helping esports become more mainstream. So I think that we'll see a lot of like esports on TV, but also esports in pop culture and media growing a lot more. Um, I think 100 Thieves already is working on this by like trying to diversify their brand to from becoming an esports brand to like a lifestyle brand, which is why they drop so much merch, and like you see their merch on like hypebeast resale sites. And I think that some people don't even realize that 100 Thieves is like an esports brand because they house so many like streamers and content creators that are just like in like life now. Like you would see them on TikTok rather than on Twitch. Yeah, I think there will be like a blur of the line between esports and pop culture soon. And more people will start following esports. More people that you wouldn't expect to would start following esports. But there will always, I think, also be a little area for those like hardcore gamers who are really into their games. So like CSGO. CSGO, I think, is a very mainstream esport, but at the same time, you don't really see a lot of like casual fans. Like you gotta like play CS to like understand and know CS to watch CS. So there will still be that demographic, I think. But yeah, basically TLDR, esports becomes mainstream. It's in our blood. It'll be like on every billboard, you know. Yeah.